Diamond heists have long been the subjects of blockbuster movies, but real-life thieves made the Diamond Center in Antwerp, Belgium, the target of a robbery. A theft years in the making, this group had to get past layers and layers of security to carry out one of the biggest diamond thefts in history. This is the Antwerp Diamond Heist.
Hello, fellow true crime fanatics. I'm Hallie.
And I'm Brittany.
And thank you for jumping back into the abyss with us today. We are super excited to talk about a heist today, not only just any, but the world's largest diamond heist. It's going to be so interesting. Some of this stuff is just baffling to even process. So you'll have to go on our website to see all of the pictures that physically show you that they really did all of this. It's insane. And we're super excited to be able to talk to you about it today. Make sure to go to our Facebook and our Instagram, YouTube, give us a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff, so that way you can get notified whenever new episodes come out and you don't miss any good content. Also, we have a Patreon if you want to help support our podcast by contributing a few dollars every month. We would really appreciate it because we want to be able to provide you with the best quality and information that we can.
So let's jump into the abyss. Antwerp, Belgium has long been considered the diamond capital of the world. This history goes back all the way to the 15th century. Vasco da Gama's exploration established a good route between Lisbon and Antwerp was already an up-and-coming commercial center. So these things combined made the previous diamond capital, Bruges, more or less obsolete. Antwerp persisted through the war, and changes in political power and even trade restrictions. Diamond cutters adapted to cutting other gems in times when it was hard to get diamonds into the city. In the 1860s, diamond mines were discovered in South Africa, and also some of the restrictions lifted, which made the industry soar. And in 1893, the first diamond exchange, Diamond Club van Antwerpen, was established.
Very fancy.
World War II took a heavy toll on the industry as many diamond cutters were Jewish and forced to flee the city. But as recovery commenced, many came back and the diamond industry rebounded again. In 1947, the World Federation of Diamond Bourses was established in Antwerp, solidifying its stance as the diamond capital. Although there are diamond cutters around the world, about 80% of the world's rough diamonds go through Antwerp. Within this diamond district in Antwerp, there's a building called the Diamond Center, and in it there are many diamond cutters and merchants set up. The building has state-of-the-art security, and within it there's a vault, so the people that work there can store their diamonds just right on site. This vault has a whopping 10 layers of security to prevent people from stealing these super valuable commodities. First off, the district and the building itself has dozens of security cameras, and there are these steel pillars that can pop out of the ground to prevent people from driving up to the building, or if they're already in that area, it prevents them from driving away. You also need a clearance to get into the building, whether it's a security card or clearance from the guards. So all of that is before you can even get to the vault at all. The vault itself is 2 entire stories beneath the ground, so there's no driving there or backing a truck up to it or anything like that. There are 24-hour security cameras set up both outside of the vault and inside the vault. There's also a combination dial that only specific people know the combination of, and this combination has tens of millions of possibilities, so it's not just an easy one to crack. In addition to this, to get in the vault, you need a special kind of key. And the steel door itself was built to withstand drilling and has a sensor that would detect any vibrations like drilling, and it would sound an alarm. Aside from that, there's also 2 metal plates that create this magnetic attachment, and if that field is broken, an alarm is triggered. Inside the steel door, there's a metal grate that needs another key, and then if you manage to get past both of those, inside the vault, in addition to that surveillance camera, there are 2 sensors. One senses changes in light, and the other senses changes in temperature and motion. So that's a lot of security. They were serious about protecting these diamonds, and any one of those security measures might be enough to thwart would-be thieves.
Yeah, even listening to all of the security measures that you just listed, it sounds literally impossible. I wouldn't even be able to figure it out how to get past every single security precaution.
Yeah, it's insane how protected these diamonds were and the lengths that they went to just to protect against any theft.
In 2000, a man named Leonardo Notarbartolo moved to Antwerp, Belgium as a gem importer from Turin, Italy, and he rented an office in the infamous Antwerp Diamond Center. He bought himself an apartment in the area and proceeded with his new job per usual. He made sure to dress professionally, get to work on time, schedule appointments, handle transactions, all the normal activities of a gem importer. He was a charming Italian man who seemed to speak little French. Little did everyone know that they had just brought in a highly skilled jewel thief. By the time he had started his job at the Antwerp Diamond Center, Leonardo had already performed many robberies. In fact, we have to go all the way back to when he was 6 years old to provide the details. In 1958, Leonardo was 6 years old when his mom asked him to run out and grab some milk from the milkman. When Leonardo arrived, the milkman was asleep on duty, so Leonardo just rummaged through the man's belongings and returned home with $8 for his mom. She was furious that he had stolen and punished him for his bad behavior. This didn't thwart him in any way, though. As Leonardo got older, the malicious activities didn't cease. They actually grew to be worse and worse. In elementary school, Leonardo stole money from his teachers. In his adolescence, he learned to efficiently pick locks, which benefited him whenever he would steal cars. Once his 20s hit, he became obsessed with jewelry salesmen. He would stalk them and pay close attention to their behaviors. In his 30s, he started a team of criminals to perform various robberies. They all resided near or in Turin, Italy, so they referred to themselves as the School of Turin. Leonardo dove headfirst into a life of crime, and he had no hesitation about it. He wasn't the only person in his family to have criminal connections either. In fact, his cousin, Benedetto Capizzi, was accused of being a member, or at least involved with, the Sicilian mafia.
So eventually, Leonardo decided that his life was not quite Ocean's 11 enough and set out to pull together a team to rob the Antwerp Diamond Center. His first order of business was to talk to a diamond dealer to see if this feat was even possible. After seeing the level of security and layout of the building, this is literally considered one of the safest places in the entire world, remember? It looked like it was going to be a huge undertaking. Leonardo was not so easily swayed, however, and he started trying to find figurative cracks in the security. There were a couple of things going for him. For example, there was no night security guard because with all those technological security measures, it kind of seemed redundant. This meant Leonardo only really had to outsmart tech to break in. He needed a better idea of what he was about to be up against, but photography in the vault area was completely forbidden. So Leonardo fashioned a tiny camera inside of a pen, and he put this in his shirt pocket. Since he had an office in the building, he had access to the vault, so the next time he was taken down there, he put this little camera in his pocket and photographed the outside and the inside of the vault. This is when he really analyzed the lock system. The combination lock had numbers 0 to 99 and needed 4 digits. Again, this means about 100 million possibilities for that combination. The steel door with many sensors and cameras and a code system to disarm the alarm were also observed. The lock itself was a foot long, and the key needed to open the door was very unique. Aside from that door, each safe deposit box needed an individual key and a unique combination with over 17,000 possibilities for that one. He also managed to photograph the police watchtower. This tower had bulletproof glass and 2 guards that controlled those steel pillars that surround the Diamond District. Upon going through all of these pictures, Leonardo concluded that this was in no way possible. He told all of his findings to the diamond dealer he had previously met with, who then went quiet for about 5 months. After this 5 months, the dealer asked him to go to a location outside of Antwerp for a clandestine meeting.
When Leonardo arrived at the rogue location, he saw a warehouse and the dealer. The dealer told him that he had some friends that he wanted Leonardo to meet. They entered the warehouse and were blocked by a black tarp. Once they pushed it aside and entered the room, he saw an exact reconstruction of the vault and antechamber at the Antwerp Diamond Center, along with the group of people on the side. Those were going to be his ticket to riches, also known as his new team.
That's gotta be like one of those moments where you're just like,
yeah, no backing out now. Leonardo talked to the members of his team, but he refuses even to this day to rat any of the people out. Therefore, they all have nicknames. First was the Genius, and he was able to disarm any alarm, so he was very technologically skilled. Second was the Monster, who was tall and extremely large, meaning he was strong and could maintain physical exertion. He was also an expert lockpicker, electrician, mechanic, and driver. The Monster could pretty much do whatever he was putting his mind towards. Third was the King of Keys, who was also known as one of the best key replicators in the world. The only difference between him and the other men was that he was old enough to be their grandfather. So this was probably a little bit of a shock whenever Leonardo walked in and saw him standing there with all the guys. Even though Leonardo had a great team, he knew he had to include a lifelong friend of his known as Speedy. Some of the other members didn't really want him to be a part of the heist because they knew him to get paranoid and panic a little bit, but Leonardo knew that he just couldn't go through with this task unless Speedy was in on it too. In the end, the team finally accepted and Speedy became a new addition. About 2 years after Leonardo started his job at the Diamond Center, the plan was getting more and more real. The team snuck a small camera the size of a fingertip, so very, very small, above the vault door on the ceiling. It was obscured by the light beams that were coming down from this, obviously a light, that was above the vault door. And there was a storage room near the vault that had a fire extinguisher. They were able to keep the extinguisher fully functional and also get some electronics into a watertight compartment on the extinguisher. This was able to process information from the camera above the vault, so that way they could receive the data. In September 2002, at 7 o'clock in the morning, a guard went down to unlock the door exactly how it should have been, and the camera was waiting for him. They were able to see every spin of the lock, but not the numbers, so they really had to look at how the code was being spun. They also were able to get a view of the vault key before it was inserted into the door. This was exactly what they were looking for to prep for the last stages of the heist, and now they were finally ready to go through with it. They waited and waited for the perfect time, and it finally came. 5 months later, on February 13th, 2003, a shipment from De Beers arrived in Antwerp. De Beers is the world's largest diamond mining company, and they were delivering millions of dollars worth of diamonds that day.
On February 14th, 2003, Leonardo went to the vault as he often did. He had worked there so long at this point that the guard was totally used to him and didn't really sense anything out of the ordinary. What the guard didn't know is Leonardo had a can of hairspray in his pocket. Once in the vault, he sprayed the heat and motion sensor to render it useless. The alarm would only go off if both heat and movement were sensed, so taking out one of those things really messed with the whole sensor. They were not exactly sure how long it would hold, but they hoped it would last until the following day at least. On February 15th, the Diamond Center was all but deserted. It was Saturday, first of all, and it just so happened that Venus Williams was playing a huge tournament in Antwerp that night, and the prize was a tennis racket that was encrusted with $1 million worth of diamonds.
What a prize.
I'll take it.
Call me Venus Williams.
The heist crew felt ready at this point and pulled up to a road on the side of the district, and the King of Keys picked the lock of a defunct office building, and the team was off to start this monumental task. The genius led the group through a private garden towards the Diamond Center to avoid surveillance cameras. They had previously left a ladder strategically placed so they could use it to climb onto a second floor terrace. There was a heat sensing monitor on this terrace, but it was thwarted by a polyester shield with low thermal conductivity. This was used by the genius to get onto the terrace, and then he placed it over the monitor so the rest of the team could join. While the crew was climbing up, the genius disabled another alarm to allow them to get through a window into the building. And once they were down in the vault antechamber, they covered the cameras with black plastic bags and turned the lights on. To get past the magnetic field failsafe, they used a simple piece of rigid aluminum with double-sided tape on it. It was stuck to the metal plate that controlled the sensor, and then the plates were loosened and stuck on the wall out of the way. The King of Keys repeated what he saw on the video and went to the back closet and realized that the vault key was literally just hanging on the wall there. So he grabbed it and realized they wouldn't need that replica key that they had made after all. which I'm sure that was a lot of work for nothing at that point.
Yeah. I guess better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah. You don't want to get halfway there and not be able to get in there.
Yeah. It's a lot of effort. They did a lot of backup plans just in case.
The police wouldn't even find out that there was a replica key until years later when Leonardo talked. Even though all this tech was guarding this vault, each separate piece was solved in kind of a laughably easy way.
Yeah, just some simple stuff that they were getting from like Walmart.
Honestly. Key in hand, the king of keys lived up to his name by placing the key, while the genius put in the combination that he had seen in the video. They then shut the lights back off so they wouldn't trip the interior light sensor and swung the steel door open. Leonardo was sitting in the car listening to the police scanner to make sure the group hadn't been had, and Speedy called him to update him on the progress in the vault.
Once the vault door was open, they still had to get past the metal grate. The King of Keys was able to pick the lock open, and now it was the monster's turn to take the reins. The monster propped open the door with paint cans that were found in the storage closet, and then walked exactly 11 steps into the vault as practiced. He reached up into the ceiling and grabbed the security system's inbound and outbound wires that assisted in signaling alarms and transmitting information from the vault. I won't go into too much detail on this part because all of the technical terms can be a little bit confusing. But basically, the monster had to trim off the plastic from the wires in the dark with his hands over his head, not looking at it. And he had to be very, very, very careful because if he slipped, he would have triggered the alarm immediately.
I'm sure everybody was holding their breath at that point.
Breaking a sweat, yeah. I'm breaking a sweat thinking about having to do that. After that was done, he did some rewiring so that the sensors wouldn't trip the alarm anymore. And he did it successfully, which is pretty impressive for in the dark, not even looking, and your hands over your head. He must have practiced so many times in that replica antechamber.
Yeah, that's wild that they could do that. I don't think I've ever practiced anything that hard in my life.
They were finally in the clear. However, they had come too far to make any mistakes. So they took precautions to disable other sensors. They put a styrofoam box over the heat and motion detector, and they put black tape over the light sensor. Very simple but efficient techniques. The King of Keys then brought out a handmade drill with a thin piece of metal on the end. This was going to be their way of breaking into the safe deposit boxes. He put the thin metal end into the keyhole and started to just crank, and eventually the box busted open. They were excited that everything was going to plan, but they had to work quickly and primarily in the dark, just in case. Obviously, they covered the light sensors. They could have flipped on the lights, but they were not taking any chances. They only turned on their flashlights for a few seconds to put the drill in the lock, and then it turned it back off, and just used what they had memorized about the vault during practice. By the time 5:30 a.m. rolled around, they had successfully opened 109 safe deposit boxes. They decided it was time to wrap up since people would start roaming the streets soon. It took the team about an hour to lug all of the loot that they had stolen back up the stairs, through the window, down the ladder, and into the office building. When the coast was clear, they ran out and loaded it into Leonardo's car. He slowly drove away, and the group walked down the street as if nothing had happened, and they had all planned to just meet back up at Leonardo's apartment later.
Once gathered at Leonardo's apartment, they all lamented about what they had just pulled off. I'm sure there was a lot of excitement as they started going through the bags. To their dismay, a lot of the satchels they opened were empty. They thought that the take would be much bigger, but Leonardo realized that the dealer that had been helping them may have tipped off his high-rolling friends so they could claim insurance for the stolen goods but still have their diamonds to themselves as well. The heist was still a success, however, and each member of the group decided to meet up in Milan with all the gems they had taken. It was Leonardo and Speedy's job to take the evidence and burn it. Now, like we said, Leonardo and Speedy went way back, and he knew he wanted him on the team, even though the others were really worried because of Speedy's propensity for totally flipping out in panic. Unfortunately, these fears about Speedy were proven well-founded, and Leonardo pulled off on the E19 motorway out of Antwerp to dispose of the stuff. This dark and desolate area seemed like a perfect place. He staked out the area, but when he went back to the car to get the evidence to burn, he saw Speedy having his customary panic attack, stomping around in the mud, throwing things all willy-nilly into the bushes.
This would be me. I would start panicking and be like, just get it out of here.
There were even diamonds scattered in the mud, and Leonardo just told him get in the car. He figured it was such an isolated place that no one would find the dump site, so he didn't really feel like it was a big deal to just leave it and get out of there.
The following morning, on February 17th, 2003, it was a Monday, so obviously everyone's headed back to work, and the Diamond Squad was contacted with awful news about the Diamond Center vault. The Diamond Squad is a specialized force that protects diamonds, so they really done messed up on this one. They even deal with legal and illegal transactions. They watch the Diamond District 24/7, and they have a total of 63 cameras along the 3-block range. Needless to say, the heist was really a big hit for them. And their two leaders, Patrick Pays and Agim D. Brucker, went to the crime scene. What they saw stunned them. We have pictures on our website, theabysspod.com, and it is crazy to really see what they did, including their setup to break into the vault. The police saw the thick, heavy steel door open, and 109 out of 189 safe deposit boxes were opened. Money and diamonds were scattered all over the place since the loot was too much for them to successfully remove, and they did it all in the dark. Obviously, they dropped stuff. Police contacted SecureLink, which was the alarm system that was protecting the vault, and their status said that the vault was fully functional and secured. But obviously, they were like, that's not the case. That same morning, off of E19 motorway, a man named August Van Camp went to hunt some rabbits with his weasels on a land that he had bought right off the highway. There may have been a lot of noise there, but there were also a lot of rabbits, so beggars can't be choosers, you know? Unfortunately, the area always got trashed by teenagers that decided to sneak off to go party, and this got really annoying, so he was always in contact with police about garbage being left behind on his property. That morning, when he saw another large pile of garbage, he became infuriated. He looked super closely at it all and then went to call the police with the description. The police were obviously annoyed at the continuous calls, and they also had way bigger problems on their hands that morning, but they still listened to him rattle off about his problems, and this time he reported a videotape, a wine bottle, a half-eaten salami sandwich, and some envelopes that said Diamond Center, Antwerp. This stopped the police in their tracks immediately, and they hurried over to Van Camp's property. He was ecstatic because he thought that they were finally taking this vandalism problem seriously, but really, they were investigating a huge diamond heist. Police got there and were digging through the trash for evidence and even collected some diamonds that they found in the mud. They were able to find a low-light surveillance system invoice by Leonardo Notarbartolo and a business card for Elio Di Onorio. Elio was an electronics expert and had been tied to other robberies in the past. They also found a half-eaten antipasto Italiano salami sandwich, which may seem irrelevant, but it ends up playing a pretty big role in this case.
2 days after the heist, the crew met up at a bar in Adro, Italy. They were supposed to meet the dealer there to hand over the stash and receive their cut. The dealer was going to take a third, and the rest would be split among the others. Since the take was a lot smaller than they had planned, they were getting about $3 million each instead of the 10 they were imagining, but $3 million is still a lot of money in my book, so take a crisp $5 bill. They had a lot of questions for the dealer about how things went down, but the dealer never showed. And the group ended up sitting until closing waiting for them to come. The following Thursday, as Leonardo spent time with his granddaughter, he began to grow worried about the evidence that had been left behind. The next morning, Leonardo had to return the rental car to Belgium, and he was planning to go into work so he wouldn't look suspicious. He also wanted to clean his apartment, and his wife wanted to go to Belgium too so the pair could spend some time together, so they went off on their way. While he was on his way back to Belgium, the police were surrounding his home. His son Marco, justifiably alarmed, tried to call his dad and refused to let the police in, but Marco couldn't reach either of his parents. So Leonardo was blissfully unaware as he walked back into the Diamond District, collected his mail, and waved to the guard. The same guard he had just waved to immediately phoned the manager, who in turn phoned the police, and when the police showed up, Leonardo tried to pretend like he didn't know French at all. What? No parlez-vous. Police put him in their car and made him point out his apartment. And in a moment of terrible timing, as soon as Leonardo and the police pulled up to his apartment, his wife and two of his friends were carrying out rolled up rugs and bags out. So just a few minutes one way or the other and he would have been fine.
Yeah, they were cleaning out all of the evidence of anything he did wrong.
So definitely caught red-handed there.
Made the job easy for the police, though. All the evidence was right there. They didn't have to search.
All of them were obviously taken into custody. Police got a search warrant for Leonardo's apartment and found a time-stamped receipt for the antipasto Italiano salami sandwich. And this receipt was for February 13th at 12:56 p.m., which was just a couple days before the heist. This is the same sandwich the police had in evidence from the pile of discarded items. So all of that effort, all of that training, all of that practice, and taken down by a salami sandwich. Police went to the store and watched the surveillance footage. They saw a huge man, Fernando Finotto, who was assumed to be the monster. They also found SIM cards that showed calls to Elio Dionorio, who they believed to be the genius, as well as Finotto and another man, Pietro Tevano, who they believed to be Speedy. A cell tower in the Diamond District also pinged all three and Leonardo as well. It was also seen that Leonardo and Pietro were in constant contact the night in question. And they also broke into Leonardo's safe and found 17 diamonds and certificates that were traced back to the Diamond Center. They even were able to vacuum more diamonds from the rolled up carpet that his wife was carrying out when the police showed up.
It probably wasn't the smartest idea, as we know now, to be constantly calling each other the night of the crime.
Yeah. I thought that was really interesting because it's like some pieces they practiced so hard and had so like everything intricately down to being able to like mess with wires in the dark and things like that. But then some bigger things, they just like the calls and just having stuff strewn about and all that stuff. They just like weren't as meticulous in certain areas, and that really caught up to them.
Leonardo Notarbartolo was convicted of orchestrating the heist and was sentenced to a total of 10 years in prison. As for Fernando Finotto, who they believed was the monster, they searched his girlfriend's home and collected $100 of marked money that came from a victim of the heist, so clearly proving that he was part of it. It took a while to get him behind bars, but in November 2007, he was sentenced to 5 years. Elio Dionorio, believed to be the genius, was questioned and said that he had previously installed cameras in Leonardo's office, but that was the only connection he had to the guy. However, this statement didn't hold up after police found his DNA on the adhesive tape used to disable the magnetic sensors, not to mention that they had his business card from the evidence strewn about, and he was one of the people called on the SIM card. He ended up joining Fernando Finotto and was sentenced to 5 years in prison in November 2007 as well. Pietro Tevano, thought to be Leonardo's friend Speedy, was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but he refuses to make any statements. As for the King of Keys, the old man got away without anything. He was clear, no identity. They were able to prove that he was there by phone records and some DNA that they found on scene that didn't belong to any of the people they had, but they were not able to identify him. Just like the heist members, the entirety of the loot was also never recovered. Police report that they stole $100 million from the vault, but Leonardo says that they only got $20 million. This is very suspicious. This could be a statement to throw off law enforcement, or they could have been played by the dealer and his friends for insurance fraud. This is a crazy popular case because it was one of the largest heists in history. It was covered by BBC and there are books on it. It was just insane to research, and it even seems like a real-life Ocean's movie, which was super interesting as well. The first one came out in the 1960s, so they easily could have referenced some of that behavior in their production of the heist. But then the new movie for Ocean's 11 came out in 2001, so it makes you wonder if they even referenced that for some of it since the heist happened in 2003. It's really crazy to look at how it all syncs up.
So did these thieves only make off with $20 million worth of loot, or did they manage to commit the biggest diamond heist in history?
Thanks for jumping into the abyss with us.
diamond Bowers. Bowers.
All of the security measures.
Aside from, God, those comments are killing me.
Leonardo talked to
Not the bar. Not the
Notarbartolo.
Notarbartolo. Man, my contacts are like key until years later when Leonardo
Slung. Never found, got out scotch-free. Scot-free? But it was scotch, because scotch clear. Like you got out clear. No?